right, welcome to another deep dive. We are diving into the life of Saad ibn Abi Waqqas,
Oh, Saad ibn Abi Waqqas,
one of the 10 promised paradise.
one of the Ashara Mubashara.
Yeah, and so we're going to use a lecture by Yasir Qadi
Yasir Adi.
to kind of go through this
Yeah.
and figure out what is it about this guy that made him
What made him so special?
earn such an incredible distinction.
It's fascinating. I mean, we're talking about 7th century Arabia,
Yeah.
like accepting a new faith. Like Islam was a
Right.
monumental decision,
Yeah.
especially for someone as young as Saad,
Yeah.
who was only 17 at the time.
17 years old when he embraced Islam.
Yeah,
So let's paint the picture for our listener.
sure.
Saad ibn Abi Waqqas,
Ibn Abi Waqqas.
born to Hamna bint Sufyan
Okay.
and
And Abi Waqqas.
Abi Waqqas.
Yeah, I love those naming conventions back then.
Straightforward.
Makes it easy.
But get this.
What's that?
His uncle,
Okay.
Amir ibn Umayyah,
Uh-huh.
was a fierce opponent of Islam. I can only imagine the family dinners.
That must have been some tension at the dinner table.
Oh, absolutely.
But it really speaks to the conviction that Saad must have had
Yeah.
to embrace Islam in spite of those pressures.
Yeah.
You know, and remember, this isn't just like a casual conversion here.
Right.
We're talking about being one of the Ashara Mubashara.
Right.
Signifies a level of faith and dedication
Yeah.
that really set these 10 companions apart.
That's what I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
What made these individuals so special? I mean, promised paradise.
That's the ultimate reward.
That's like the ultimate reward.
Yeah.
What did they do or
Yeah.
embody to deserve such an honor?
Well, it's not just about a single action or a single deed.
Okay.
It's about their unwavering faith,
Uh-huh.
their sacrifices,
Yeah.
and their embodiment of Islamic principles.
Okay.
So think of them as the pioneers,
The pioneers.
the ones who helped establish and spread Islam
Okay.
during its most formative years.
I see. So their lives become these fascinating case studies.
Case studies in early Islamic practice.
Yeah.
It's like looking through a window into that time period.
Exactly.
And what about Saad's relationship with the Prophet Muhammad?
Yeah.
What insights can we glean from that?
You know, Qadi points out that the Prophet often paired Saad
Oh,
with other prominent figures,
okay.
like Zubair ibn al-Awwam,
Okay.
and he entrusted them with
Right.
significant responsibilities.
Right.
It wasn't just random.
Okay.
It suggests that Saad was held in high regard
Okay.
within the early Muslim community.
Okay. So we're starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
Early convert, close to the Prophet,
Yeah.
trusted with important tasks.
Yeah,
It sounds like Saad was more than just a name in the crowd.
exactly. And this is all before we even get to
Yeah.
his military achievements.
Okay.
You know, remember, Saad wasn't just a man of faith.
Yeah.
He was also a skilled archer
Okay.
and a courageous warrior.
This leads us to the Battle of Qadisiyah,
Yes.
where Saad faces off against...
The mighty Persian Empire.
Yeah.
I have to admit, when I hear Persian Empire,
Okay.
I picture vast armies, opulent palaces,
Right.
centuries of power.
Right.
What made them such a formidable force back then?
You're spot on.
Yeah.
The Sasanian Empire at that time was a major superpower.
Okay.
They had a sophisticated infrastructure,
Mm.
a well-trained military,
Yeah.
and they controlled vast territories.
Yeah.
So facing them would have been intimidating,
Absolutely.
to say the least.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
And yet, the Muslims, under Saad's leadership,
Under Saad's leadership,
emerged victorious.
emerged victorious.
What does that tell us about his military capabilities?
It wasn't just about tactics.
Right?
Think about the weight of responsibility on his
Mhm.
shoulders.
Yeah.
Qadi actually describes incredibly challenging conditions during that battle,
Okay.
including a blinding sandstorm.
A sandstorm.
A sandstorm.
Wow.
Leading an army under those circumstances against such a powerful enemy
Yeah.
takes
Mm.
extraordinary courage
Yeah.
and strategic thinking.
No kidding. And this wasn't just any victory, right?
No, not at all.
I'm guessing this battle had huge implications
Huge implications.
for the future of Islam.
Absolutely.
So, in what way?
Well, the Battle of Qadisiyah
Yeah.
was a pivotal moment in
Yeah.
history.
Okay.
It marked the beginning of the Islamic conquest of Persia,
Okay.
which ultimately led to the decline
Oh, wow.
of the Sasanian Empire.
Okay.
So, In many ways, this victory paved the way
Okay.
for the spread of Islam across a vast region.
Wow.
A vast region.
Talk about a turning point.
Yeah, I mean, talk about somebody who really made an impact.
So we're seeing Saad's impact extending beyond
Yeah.
just these individual acts of bravery.
Right.
He's shaping the course of history.
Shaping the course of history.
But there's another layer to his story that I find intriguing.
Okay.
His spiritual depth.
His spiritual depth.
I mean, this is a guy who was concerned about the implications of his wealth.
Yeah, and that's one of the fascinating aspects of Saad's story.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy
Yeah.
for him to get caught up in his success.
Right.
Both military and material.
Yeah.
Right. But he was deeply concerned
Yeah.
about his spiritual well-being.
Yeah.
He even approached the prophet
Okay.
for advice
Yeah.
on how much of his wealth
Okay.
he should give to charity.
Oh, wow.
Imagine that.
That's interesting because it challenges the stereotype of the warrior,
Yeah.
focused solely on conquest and power.
Right.
Saad seems to have been very aware
Very aware.
of the potential pitfalls of wealth
Yes.
and actively sought guidance
Actively sought guidance.
on how to use it responsibly.
It's a great example of the emphasis
Yeah.
Islam places on balance.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Material success is permissible,
Right.
but it's crucial to remember the importance
Yeah.
of spiritual growth
Okay.
and giving back to the community. And Saad, even with his considerable wealth,
Right.
was deeply conscious of that balance.
It makes me want to learn more about his approach to charity.
Yeah, let's do that.
Was it just about giving money,
Uh-huh.
or was there like a deeper philosophy at play?
That's a great question and one that I think we should explore further.
Okay.
But first, we got to take a quick break.
We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back
We'll be right back with more
with more on the life
on the fascinating life
of
Saad ibn Abi Waqqas,
Saad ibn Abi Waqqas,
one of the 10 promised paradise.
one of the 10 promised paradise. It's striking how Saad's concern for his wealth
Yeah.
wasn't just a one-time thing.
Right.
It reflects a deeper commitment to
Yeah.
using his resources responsibly,
Right.
which is a theme we see
Okay.
throughout his life.
I'm curious, what specific examples
Okay.
of Saad's charity stood out to you?
Well, there's this anecdote
Okay.
where Saad goes to the Prophet Muhammad.
Clearly worried about potentially overstepping
Okay.
some boundary.
Okay.
And he asks about giving a third of his wealth
A third.
to charity.
Okay.
And the prophet responds, a third is too much, a third is too much.
A third is too much.
A sixth is sufficient.
Okay.
Although the best is what is between these two.
So even giving away a third of his wealth
Right.
wasn't considered excessive.
I mean,
That's a level of generosity.
that's a level of generosity that's hard to fathom,
Hard to fathom, especially in today's world.
especially in today's world.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, come on.
Right.
It really highlights the different understanding of
Yeah.
wealth and charity
Yeah.
that existed back then.
Okay.
It wasn't just about meeting a minimum requirement.
Right.
It was about actively seeking opportunities
Okay.
to give back and benefit the community.
And what about the impact of his charity?
Okay.
Did Qadi delve into like how it was used or who it benefited?
You know, the lecture doesn't provide specific details on that.
Okay.
But we can infer from the context
Okay.
that Saad's contributions would have had
Yeah.
significant impact
Okay.
on the early Muslim community,
Yeah.
which was still in its nascent stages,
Right.
you know, supporting those in need,
Yeah.
funding expeditions, building infrastructure.
Right.
These were all crucial aspects
Yeah.
of establishing a strong and vibrant community.
So it's like each act of charity
Right.
was like an investment,
Yeah.
not just in individual well-being,
Right.
but in the future
It's in the future of the entire community.
of the entire community.
It's like these individual actions
yeah.
rivel outward
Yeah.
and contribute to a much larger picture.
And it connects back to the idea of the Ashara Mubashara
Exactly.
being like these pioneers.
These pioneered.
They weren't just concerned with their
Okay.
own salvation.
Okay.
They were actively
Yeah.
laying the foundation for a future society based on Islamic principles.
Based on Islamic principles,
And Saad,
with his generosity,
with his generosity,
seems to have played a key role
a key role
in that foundation building.
in that foundation building.
But it wasn't just about money, was it?
No, absolutely not.
You mentioned earlier
Yeah,
there were other aspects to his character
to his character.
that contributed to his spiritual depth.
Absolutely. Qadhi recounts the story
Okay.
about the Prophet Muhammad
Right.
complimenting Saad's archery skills.
Okay.
So he praises him
Okay.
as a strong archer.
Okay.
Right. Now, many people might revel in such praise,
Yeah.
letting it inflate their ego.
Sure.
But Saad's response
Yeah.
is remarkable.
Okay.
He immediately attributes his skill to Allah.
Wow.
He says, "By the one who sent you with the truth,
Okay.
I cannot even hit this pebble if I aimed for it,
Okay.
unless Allah wills it."
That's a powerful display of humility.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. It would have been so easy to take credit
So easy.
for his talent.
Right.
But he acknowledges a higher power at work.
And it speaks to a core tenet of Islam.
Okay.
The understanding that all abilities and successes are ultimately gifts from God.
Yeah.
Saad's humility
Yeah.
reflects this understanding.
Beautifully.
Beautiful.
I can't help but compare that to our modern obsession
Right.
with individual achievement
With individual achievement.
and self-promotion.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to see someone like Saad,
Yeah.
who achieved so much,
You've achieved so much.
still acknowledging a force greater than himself.
It's a valuable reminder
Yeah.
that even in the midst of worldly success,
Yeah.
it's crucial to maintain that sense of humility
Right.
and gratitude.
And this brings us to a hadith
Yes.
Kati mentions,
Uh-huh.
where Saad is described as someone loved by Allah for his piety
Loved by Allah.
as well,
For his piety as well.
and his discretion.
And his discretion, right.
That combination,
That combination.
piety, wealth, and discretion,
Piety, wealth, discretion.
it's like a trifecta of admirable quality.
It is a trifecta.
It suggests that one doesn't have to renounce
yeah.
worldly possessions
Worldly possession
to be considered pious,
to be considered pious.
but rather use them wisely
Use them wisely.
and responsibly.
Responsibly.
And the inclusion of discretion is particularly interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It suggests a balance
Right.
between outward piety
Outward piety
and inner humility.
and inner humility.
It's not about showing off.
It's not about showing off your good deeds.
Right.
It's about performing them sincerely
Right.
with a sense of modesty.
It's like true piety is reflected
reflected in one's action.
in one's actions.
Not
No,
just words.
not just words.
And this ties back to the idea
Uh-huh.
of Saad's charity,
Yeah.
not being a performative act,
Right.
but a genuine expression of his faith
Yeah.
and concern for the community.
Yeah.
And concern for the community, exactly.
And I think this emphasis on discretion
Okay.
is also relevant to his military leadership.
Interesting.
Remember, he was known
Okay.
not just for his bravery,
Right.
but also for his
Just strategic thinking.
strategic
Just
thinking
careful planning.
and careful planning.
No.
Now that you mention it,
Yeah.
I remember reading somewhere
Like
that Saad was known for his cautious approach to warfare.
to warfare.
He wasn't reckless.
He wasn't reckless.
He calculated his moves
Uh-huh.
and considered the well-being of his troops.
Consider the well-being.
There's this anecdote from the Battle of Uhud,
Okay.
where the Muslims are facing a difficult situation
Okay.
after the martyrdom of the Prophet's uncle,
Yeah,
Hamza,
I take
and
that.
Saad,
Yeah.
overcome with grief and anger,
Grief and anger.
wants to charge into the enemy ranks,
Wants to charge in
seeking revenge.
for revenge.
I can imagine the emotions running high
Yeah.
in that moment. It must have been tempting to act impulsively,
Impulsive.
seeking retribution for such a loss.
Such a loss.
But here's where Saad's character shines through.
Okay.
The Prophet Muhammad,
Yeah.
despite his own grief,
Yeah.
cautions Saad
Okay.
against acting rashly.
Against acting rashly.
He reminds him of the importance of discipline
Of discipline.
and strategy,
And strategy.
even in the face of such a personal tragedy.
Even in the face of personal tragedy.
That's remarkable leadership
Yeah.
from both sides.
On both sides.
Saad willing to listen to reason,
Willing to listen.
even in a moment of intense emotions,
Intense emotion.
and the Prophet providing guidance
Writing guidance.
and reminding everyone of the bigger picture.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
And it highlights a crucial aspect of Saad's personality,
Okay.
his willingness to learn
To learn.
and defer to authority.
Defer to us.
Even when it went against
Uh,
his initial impulses,
yeah.
he understood that true strength
True story.
lies in controlling one's emotions
Controlling one's emotions.
and acting with wisdom and foresight.
Wisdom and foresight.
So we see this recurring theme of balance
Balance.
in Saad's life.
Yeah.
balancing his piety
Piety
with his worldly success,
worldly success.
balancing his courage with his discretion.
Balancing his personal desires
Okay.
with the needs of the community.
With the needs of the community.
It's fascinating how all these elements come together
Yeah.
to form such a well-rounded and influential figure.
And it's a testament to the comprehensiveness of Islam
Okay.
as a way of life.
Okay.
It's not just about rituals and beliefs.
Right.
It's about striving for excellence
Okay.
in all aspects of life,
Uh-huh.
from the battlefield
Yeah.
to the marketplace,
To the marketplace.
to the home.
Speaking of home,
Okay.
I'm curious about Saad's family life.
Okay.
Kadi mentioned he had a large family.
He did.
But did he elaborate on his relationships?
With his wife and children.
Unfortunately, the lecture doesn't provide any details
Okay.
on that aspect of his life.
Okay.
However, we do know that he had numerous children,
Okay.
perhaps as many as 19.
19 children.
19 children.
That's quite a legacy in itself.
It's quite a legacy.
It makes me wonder how his parenting style
Yeah,
might have reflected
right.
his own character and values.
It's an intriguing question.
Yeah.
And, well, we can only speculate.
Yeah.
It's safe to assume that he would have instilled in his children
Yeah.
the same values of piety, generosity, and courage
Yeah.
that defined his own life.
It's almost like imagining ripples spreading outward,
Ripples spreading outward.
with Saad's influence extending beyond his own lifetime
Yeah.
through the lives of his descendants.
Through his descendants.
It makes his story feel even more impactful.
More impactful.
Knowing that his legacy lived on.
Lived on in the
Like,
generations that
The
followed.
generations that followed. Absolutely.
And it raises a fascinating question.
What's that?
What specific actions or teachings from Saad
Okay.
might have been passed down
Yeah.
through his family line?
Through his family line.
What stories would his children and grandchildren
Wow.
have shared about him?
It's like a hidden treasure trove
A hidden treasure trove
of knowledge waiting to be uncovered.
waiting to be uncovered.
And it makes me wonder,
Yeah.
what other facets of Saad's life might we be overlooking?
That's the beauty of these deep dives.
Yeah.
They spark curiosity,
Yeah.
leading us to ask new questions
Yeah.
and seek out
Yeah.
further information. There's always more to discover,
Yeah.
more layers to peel back,
Yeah.
more insights to uncover.
Well, speaking of uncovering insights,
Okay.
we've covered a lot of ground, but there's one crucial aspect of Saad's life that we haven't touched upon yet.
What's that?
His role in preserving and transmitting the Quran.
Yes, that's an essential element of his contribution.
Right.
And it highlights another dimension of his character,
Okay.
his deep reverence for the words of God
Okay.
and his commitment to ensuring their accuracy and preservation
Yeah.
for future generations.
You know, it's easy to take the written Quran for granted,
It is.
but imagining it in its early stages,
Yeah.
primarily transmitted orally,
Right.
makes you realize the immense responsibility
The immense responsibility.
individuals like Saad carried.
Yeah. Especially considering the historical context.
Yeah.
You know, with the Quran
Yes.
not yet compiled into a single book.
Right.
Saad's role
Yeah.
becomes even more crucial.
Right.
He was one of the few companions
Yeah.
who had memorized a significant portion of the Quran
Okay.
during the Prophet's lifetime.
So essentially, he was like a
He was a living repository
repository of these sacred texts.
of these sacred texts.
Wow, that's an incredible responsibility.
It is an incredible responsibility.
And to think, all of this, the military achievements,
Right.
the governorship,
The governorship,
the charitable works,
the charitable works,
all while carrying this sacred knowledge.
all while carrying
That's
that.
sacred knowledge within him.
It's a testament to his dedication
Yeah.
and the depth of his faith.
And it reminds us
Yeah.
that the early companions
Yeah.
weren't just shaping the political and social landscape of Islam.
Yeah.
They were also laying the foundation
Yeah.
for its intellectual
Right.
and spiritual heritage.
And Saad, through his memorization and transmission of the Quran,
Yes,
played a vital role in that process.
absolutely.
It's like he was building
Multiple legacies.
multiple legacies simultaneously,
Simultaneous.
ensuring the survival and flourishing of Islam
The survival and flourishing
on multiple fronts.
on multiple fronts.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It is a beautiful way to put it.
And it adds another layer.
Yeah. To our understanding of why Saad was considered one of the 10 promised paradise,
One of the 10 promised paradise.
his contributions were multifaceted,
Multifaceted.
impactful,
Yeah,
and
so-
far-reaching.
The far-reaching.
Shaping not just his own time,
Yeah.
but also the future of the entire Muslim community.
Of the entire Muslim community.
It's incredible to think about how much one individual can achieve.
I know, right?
In a lifetime.
In a lifetime.
And it makes me wonder, what lessons can we learn?
What lessons can we learn?
From Saad's extraordinary life today.
Right.
How can we apply his example of courage, faith, and generosity?
How can we apply?
In our own seemingly ordinary lives.
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
And ones that I think we should explore further.
Okay.
As we continue our deep dive into the life of Saad ibn Abi Waqqas.
Yeah, it's almost overwhelming trying to distill what we can learn from a life as full as Saad's.
It is a lot to unpack.
I mean, he was a warrior, a governor, a philanthropist, a scholar.
Right.
Where do we even begin to find those everyday lessons?
Well, I think the key is to focus on the underlying principles that guided Saad's actions, rather than the specific circumstances of his life.
Right.
For instance, his courage wasn't just about wielding a sword. It was about standing up for what he believed in, even when it was difficult or unpopular.
So it's less about trying to replicate his exact path,
Yeah.
and more about finding ways to embody that same spirit of courage in our own lives.
Right.
But how do we do that when we're not facing literal battles and empires?
Well, think about the challenges you face in your own life.
Okay.
Maybe it's speaking up against injustice,
Okay.
pursuing a difficult goal,
Okay.
or simply breaking out of your comfort zone.
Okay.
These may not be as dramatic as the Battle of Qadisiyah,
Right.
but they still require courage.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that courage exists on a spectrum.
On a spectrum.
It's not just about these grand gestures.
Right.
It's about making those small, everyday choices.
Yeah.
To stand up for what's right.
Right.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard, and that's a lesson.
Yeah.
That's universally applicable.
Right.
Regardless of your background or beliefs.
Yeah.
Just like Saad's unwavering faith.
Okay.
Now, we may not all share his religious convictions.
Right.
But the principle of having a strong belief system.
Yeah.
Something that guides your actions and gives you strength.
Okay.
During difficult times.
Yeah.
That's something I think we can all relate to.
It's like having that internal compass.
That internal compass.
The moral framework.
That helps you navigate the complexities of life.
Yeah.
And for Saad, that compass was his faith.
It was his faith.
It informed his decisions.
Right.
From his interactions with the prophet.
Right.
To his approach to warfare.
To his approach to warfare.
The governance.
The governance. It's really quite fascinating. And it's important to note that his faith wasn't just about personal piety.
Personal piety.
It was about action.
It was about action.
You know, he lived his faith through his generosity.
Through his generosity.
His commitment to justice.
His commitment to justice.
His service to the community.
Exactly.
It wasn't just about words.
It wasn't just about words.
It was about embodying those principles.
Embodying those principles.
In his daily life.
In his daily life.
That's a powerful reminder that faith in any form shouldn't just be a passive belief.
It should inspire action.
It should inspire action.
And positive change.
And speaking of action, we can't forget. Saad's incredible generosity.
Saad's incredible generosity.
He didn't just hoard his wealth.
He didn't hoard his wealth.
He actively sought ways to share it. And benefit those around him.
And that's a lesson that's more relevant now than ever, right?
Yeah.
In a world driven by consumerism and individualism, Saad's example challenges us to think beyond ourselves and consider the needs of our communities.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that true wealth lies not in what we accumulate, but in what we give away.
It makes you wonder, what would our world look like?
Yeah.
If more people embraced that approach.
What would our world look like?
You know, if we all actively sought ways to use our resources, our talents, our time.
To
make a positive impact on those around us.
It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it brings us back to that initial question.
Yeah.
What can we learn?
What can we learn?
From Saad ibn Abi Waqqas.
Right.
I think the answer lies not in trying to imitate his every action.
Yeah.
But in seeking to embody the principles that guided his life.
Okay.
Courage, faith, generosity.
Courage, faith, generosity.
And a deep sense of responsibility to something larger than oneself.
It's about recognizing that even ordinary individuals living ordinary lives can make extraordinary contributions.
Extraordinary contributions.
When they choose to live in alignment with their values.
When they choose to live in alignment with their values.
It's about embracing the idea that our actions, however small they may seem, have the potential to ripple outward.
Ripple outward.
And create positive change in the world.
Absolutely.
And it's about remembering that each of us carries within us the capacity for greatness.
A capacity for greatness.
For courage, for compassion.
For courage, for compassion.
Just like Saad.
Just like Saad.
We all have a unique role to play.
A unique role to play.
In shaping the world around us.
Absolutely.
It's up to us to discover that role.
To discover that role.
And embrace the opportunity.
Embrace the opportunity.
To make a difference.
To make a difference.
What a powerful way to end our deep dive.
It has been a powerful journey.
Into the life of Saad ibn Abi Waqqas.
Saad ibn Abi Waqqas.
It's been a journey through history, through faith.
Through history and through faith.
And ultimately through the human spirit.
Through the human spirit.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
And until next time.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep learning.
Keep exploring.
And keep diving deep.